is, let me first press the record button, if you don't mind. Thank you, Ursula. So this webinar is dedicated to the Ukraine response and primarily to attract nationals of Ukraine, Czech Republic, Hungary, Moldova, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. And during the next 30 minutes or so, we will be discussing in further details the United Nations Volunteers Program, who we are, what we do, how can one be part of our program, what is the support that we are extending to the emergency response to the war in Ukraine, how does our application process go, meaning how to become a UN volunteer, and at the end, we will open for any questions that you may have. We are aiming, as I said, at about 30 to a maximum of 45 minutes. So from my side, you have the promise to keep it short and lively. Feel free to raise any questions you may have at the chat window. Today I have with me Ursula, who will help us in answering any questions, as well as Ekaterina and Baran, who are our, Baran is a recruiter for the regional office in Istanbul, and Ekaterina, our communication specialist. So let me share the presentation with you and start it. So I hope that you see my screen, just a small confirmation. Yep, I have a confirmation that the screen is visible. In this slide, we have tried to put together what are some of the keywords of how does our partner consider us. And you can see that they consider us as experienced in the area of managing volunteers. During the last 50 years almost, we have managed more than 50,000 volunteers deployed in various duty stations around the globe. We are seen as protective, providing financial administrative support, but also medical or security evacuations when needed. Inclusive in the sense of encouraging diversity among UN volunteers, and this is seen from different angles, from nationality to gender, minor ethnicities, minorities, indigenous groups, and other marginalized groups. Flexible in terms of assignments and categories that we offer for the global citizen, reliable by offering a package of entitlement and benefits, which I'm gonna unpack a little bit later in this presentation. And finally, last but not least, proud of making a difference to the lives of many. The organization was established in 1971 by the General Assembly as the volunteering arm within the UN. Here we look at some of the statistics of 2021 on distribution of UN volunteers by continents, as well as some other parameters which I thought would be important for you to better understand the program as well as the magnitude of our operations. You will see in the right-hand side of the screen that 41% of our volunteers last year were international, so people who volunteered outside of their countries of origin, and 59% national, so people who served in their own countries. This goes perfectly in line with the last year COVID situation, where we noticed restrictions in terms of travel, but also it's in line with our South-South cooperation commitment. Our volunteers came from 173 different nationalities, and with an average age of 34 years in average. Last year, we continued to have an increase in terms of women volunteers being more and more represented, with a 56% rate overall, and 85% of the volunteers came from the Global South. We are headquartered in Bonn, in Germany, and we are operating in 160 different countries and territories. Last year was also the year where we hit the record number in terms of serving volunteers by 10,917 UN volunteers. So we are hoping that this year we will have even more volunteers. You remember that I mentioned in the first slide that we are flexible in terms of accommodating the different age groups of the population in different modalities and categories. We are well known for the specialist category that you can see it in the screen. Anybody who is 27 years and above and who brings 3 to 15 years of work experience can serve for a duration of 3 to 48 months of service. As well as the UN expert volunteers category is designed for people between 35 to 80 years of age. Volunteers under this category must bring at least 15 years of work experience and must have a master's degree. And again, under this category, volunteers can serve for a period duration of 3 to 48 months. As well as UN Youth Volunteers is designed for people who may not necessarily bring a certain number of work experience, and as per our conditions of service, one can have between 0 to 2 years of work experience. This is responding to the need to include youth in the development agenda. And assignments of UN Youth Volunteers last between 6 to 24 months. The UN Community Volunteers is that category which includes those people who would like to volunteer but who may not necessarily have higher education or any degree or any diploma. Under this category, anybody who is 18 years and above can participate as UN Community Volunteer, and assignments of this category go between 3 months to 48 months. The University Volunteer is it's designed for national or internationals, but what is specific for this category is that volunteers need to be students or recent graduates in order to be eligible to take part in this category. Last but not least is the online volunteers, which is more informal, where we provide a platform and connect organizations with individuals, and it's more task-based or opportunity-specific. Assignments under this category last between 1 to 26 weeks. Let me go to the next slide, and I will take a little bit of time to unpack this slide because I know that in many situations, in many countries, in many contexts, volunteering comes without a package of entitlement. But as you have seen from my previous slide, our volunteering opportunities are of a long-term nature and full-time, meaning one should not be working simultaneously while being with us. For this reason, as well as to give the chance to volunteer to a bigger part of the global citizen, we have put together an entitlements package which consists of the following: an entry lump sum for international volunteers, so people who serve outside of their country of assignment, travel tickets to take up duty but also upon separation or repatriation. This is again mainly for internationals, but also available for nationals if their duty station is not the same with their city of residence. Monthly living allowance, it's an amount calculated mainly by the International Civil Servant Commission for international volunteers, and meant to cover the monthly expenses of a person in a modest but still decent way, so that no one has the necessity to pay from their pockets when they are serving with us. Again, the amounts are not to be compared and seen as a salary. but rather volunteering allowances that allow one to live decently in a given duty station. All our volunteers benefit from a number of insurances, from medical to life, disability, dismemberment, and malicious acts, from the day that they start service until the day that they have finished their volunteer service. Annual leave is another entitlement, so 2.5 days per month of service. This is also what a regular staff would get at the UN. Access to training platforms and programs, and here I can mention access to some LinkedIn language platforms and others that may be closely related to the area of expertise of the volunteer. Home visit applies only to international and long-term assignments, so assignments that are in non-family registration for somebody who has finished 12 months of service and has signed another extension of another 12 months, and exit allowance, which is meant to cover, let's say, the 2-3 first runs after having finished the volunteer service and while looking for a more permanent job, let's say. So as you can see, this covers the basic needs of someone to be able to contribute their time and skills for the good cause of peace and development. The most in demand. Now, I will adjust this slide to the most in demand areas where we are looking for in the emergency context of Ukraine. We had another meeting this morning with our team who is looking after the emergency in Ukraine and neighboring countries. And as a result, the most in demand profiles that we are looking there are for psychologists, social workers, mental health, communications, administration, including operation management, protection, child protection, but also refugee protection, and IT specialists. Now, these are, as we speak, the most in-demand occupational categories, but as we have seen in other similar situations, and given the nature of our program that allows many other occupational categories to participate, we may expect even more. We also expect that the demand changes in terms of numbers, but also in terms of occupational categories. This means that I would encourage each and everyone to check frequently our application system, which I will explain in a minute, because volunteer assignments and opportunities are refreshed and added sometime on daily basis. But since we are at this slide, let me talk a little bit about usually high in demand profiles for the Ukraine emergency, but also in general in our program. So program officer, monitoring and evaluation, environment, gender, youth are usually in demand. The communication that I mentioned earlier are particularly in demand for the Ukraine emergency. In the healthcare system, I mentioned the psychologist, mental health, psychosocial support, but we have seen and we are also looking for other health profiles like the general medicine, specialized doctors, meaning in other operations, not Ukraine related. Usually the engineering remains that domain where we constantly recruit volunteers, from civil to electrical and mechanical, water and sanitation, movement control, air operations, as well as administrative functions. So administrative, procurement, logistics, finance, accounting, etc. And I mentioned earlier the child protection, the refugee protection, but also the human rights, judicial affairs, political affairs, and so on. I know that this webinar will be seen also from a group of professionals who are closely related to the protection area, so they are highly encouraged to check our opportunities and if they are convinced, to apply to some of those. Now I know that by now some of you may think like, what shall we do to to be part of this program? And in this slide, I've put together what are some of the key considerations that one should take before applying for a volunteer opportunity or assignment. So first and foremost, we have created a digitalized system that we call Unified Volunteer Platform. In short, it's UVP that you see in the screen. It's a one-stop shop for the entire volunteer journey, from the registration to the management during an assignment, repatriation, and then, if need be, reassignment in a different location or capacity. And here in the screen, you have the web link. So it's app.unv.org. There one is required to create their own profile, meaning to enter the biodata as well as qualification, skills, and experience. On this point, I will stop a little bit longer after having introduced the different bullet points, because I consider that this is one of the most important considerations that one should take when making an application. As you can see in the screen, we say that under this application system, you find all available on-site and online assignments, because we mentioned earlier the different categories. And one of the tips that I keep giving is check regularly, because assignments are updated on daily basis. And whenever one feels that you are a good match and that matches with both your interest as well as skills and qualifications, do apply. Now, what's a tip to improve chances and to maximize the chances is to describe tasks and results achieved clearly. Let me stop a little bit at this part, because I see that sometimes we may have a large number of applications, but not necessarily quality applications. Simply because sometimes people throw applications without stopping there intentionally and making a strategic application. And to everybody who is listening to this webinar, I would say that one needs to have a strategic application in order to maximize your chances. And what do I mean with that? So in this tip, we are saying describe tasks and results achieved clearly. And the part that usually misses out in many of the applications is the results part, whereby people explain very good what were they in charge to do during a certain period at their point in their professional life, but somehow the picture is not complete if one doesn't also include some results or achievements for that particular work experience, as well as a combination of a narrative that matches with what one is applying. In other words, tailor your application. Try to highlight more those roles, responsibilities, and achievements that are closer to those that to the requirements that you are applying for. In this way, you are preparing better, tailoring better your application, and highlighting your advantage vis-a-vis the rest of the candidates. As you know, or as you can imagine, the competition out there is quite high, in the sense that usually we receive above 50 to 100 applications for one position. One makes a difference when the application is done in the right way, using a tailoring application, result oriented application, as well as ideally using some of the keywords that you may see already at the volunteer opportunity. So I wanted to highlight this to all of you that may be considering to apply, because we say that your profile, the way how you write your application, is your business card. and people, including recruitment teams, will evaluate and assess your application based on what you write. So that's why it's pretty important to spend some time and do a tailored strategic application. The next tip is to keep it updated. To keep it updated because people career change, people contact details change. We have seen in many instances that we would like to contact someone and sometimes the contact details are not updated, and then it's a lost opportunity for both us and the applicant. So keeping the online application up to date is pretty important. And then last but not least is the explore section. It's a section where we have listed, and I will show it in a minute in your screen, is the useful resources section. There you can see the conditions of service. If somebody wants to hear more about what are the conditions of service of a national, international UNV, the online entitlement calculator, the frequently asked questions, current opportunities, again, the place where you see all the opportunities, and also at the bottom of this slide is the LinkedIn page. We are very much active in LinkedIn. We are using it as a platform of conversation, as a platform to announce new opportunities, as well as exchange our views and ideas on volunteering, stories from the field. So please be part of this conversation, follow us in LinkedIn, and let's also continue the conversation there. I will end it here, and I've taken 25 minutes for this presentation. And maybe maybe open the floor for any questions that you may have so far. But as I said in the beginning, this meeting is being recorded. We will share the recording with you all so that you can further share it among your member groups, networks, or whoever you think could be potentially interested to be part of the UN Volunteers Program. Is there any question at this stage? I'm opening the So if no further questions, then let me thank you all for being here today with us. I hope that you have found some of this information useful. As I said, you will receive an email message with the recording of this presentation. You have our contact details. In case you would have any follow-up questions, you know how to contact us. So please do get in touch through LinkedIn, through email, or any other means that you, or on other social media channels that you may be using. And again, thank you for being with us today, and I hope that you have found this presentation useful. So thank you and bye-bye.